we have an opportunity to get the country on a fundamentally better path. I am not interested in running to simply manage the decline of our country better than the Democrats would manage it. I'm running to reverse the decline of our country. So we've got a lot of work to do. We want your support. I can tell you, if you put me up there, as the nominee, we're going to get this done. You'll be able to see us being sworn in on January 20th, 2025 as the 47th President of the United States. But even more important than that, we will be spitting nails from day one. We will be tackling all these issues, soup to nuts, and we will deliver results for you and for the rest of the American people. All right. Anybody got anything? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Governor, in the last 2 elections, most of us in this room voted to drain the swamp twice. Talk to us specifically about why you're the right candidate to folks in New Hampshire to come behind in this primary to drain the swamp and get it done this time, as opposed to the other choice.
It's a great question. And what's your name?
Mark Johnson.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So the question is, and I remember these rallies in 2016. It was exciting. Drain the swamp. I also remember lock her up, right? And then 2 weeks after the election, don't forget about it. Forget I ever said that. No. One thing you'll get from me, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm not just saying that for an election. And there are promises I could make that may help me marginally politically that I don't know that I could necessarily follow through on, so I will not make that. And I think the idea of draining the swamp, in some respects, I think it misses it a little bit. Because we didn't drain it. It's worse today than it's ever been, by far. And that's a sad testament to the state affairs of our country. But even if you're successful at draining it, the next guy can just refill it. So I want to break the swamp. That's really what we need to do. And part of the way you do that is you understand what's gone wrong. We have a constitution that our founders framed with 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. They did not create a 4th branch of government, an administrative state that operates basically without accountability and with impunity. A lot of the most important things that affect our daily lives now, what kind of car you can drive, what kind of energy you can use, whether you can use a gas stove. And by the way, in Florida, we just made gas stoves tax-free. So you can do gas stoves in Florida. We want you to do it. But those things are being imposed by a bureaucracy. They are being imposed by nameless, faceless bureaucrats. Your members of Congress who you elect are not voting on most of these things. And so it's been a massive transfer of power from the public to these agencies in Washington, D.C. That is not what the Founding Fathers intended. And so we need to reconstitutionalize the government by making sure that these agencies are subject to accountability. Who holds them accountable? The president has to hold them accountable. Obviously, the Congress should hold them accountable with funding and with other things. They've been very lax on that. So you've got to come in, you have Article 2 powers, and you've got to drop the hammer. And so part of what we see with things like weaponization of government is actually things the founders absolutely would have predicted. If you told the founders that the American political system was going to leave an accumulation of power in Washington and these agencies basically to operate with impunity, with no constitutional accountability, human nature being what it is, the founders would have said 100% that power is going to be abused. That's why they designed checks and balances. That's why, James Madison in one of the famous Federalist Papers said, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. And so that's how they viewed. So this is the logical outgrowth. So what we're going to do, we're going to end the weaponization of government. And that means DOJ, that means FBI, IRS, all of these agencies are going to be turned inside and out. You're going to have it with me. With me, some people say the jury is still out on our FBI director. Not me. He's gone on day one. We're going to have major change. We're going to have, and we've put out some of this. We'll talk more about it, but we're going to do a lot to take power out of Washington. So, for example, we're going to tell every cabinet secretary reduce the number of of employees within the DC area by 50%. And that's your job to do that. But part of what you have to do to really break the swamp is a president cannot do it all by his lonesome. And you have to have the humility to understand that. And the idea that you're just going to come in, snap your fingers, and everyone's going to bow down to you. These people are not giving up their power willingly. Are you kidding me? So you got to have thousands of people come into Washington with you, willing to serve in the administration. Some in the White House, mostly in these cabinets and the agencies. You can't just recycle everyone from D.C. You got to bring people from other parts of the country. You may go for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. Bring your family, go and serve. And part of that is the positions at the top are important, but even the positions 3 or 4 levels down are very important because they're the ones interacting with the bureaucracy. I think something like an attorney general, you have to understand, if you are going in to bring the DOJ to account, that is not going to be popular inside Washington. You are not going to be treated well by the corporate press. You know, the corporate media now, they used to say, oh, we speak truth to power. They run interference for the deep state. I mean, that's basically what, because the deep state leaks to them, then they write or they do different things. And so they run in, they want the status quo. So you need an attorney general that's got a spine of steel, that's going to show up on day one and start cleaning house, knowing they're going to get raked over the coals. But you know, the way I view it, and I tell my folks who work for me, you got to view that as a sign that you're over the target. It's positive feedback when the media is attacking you if you're a Republican and you're actually doing the right things. So we've got, in Florida, I've got a Surgeon General named Dr. Joseph Ladapo. You guys should look him up. He's really good. And he's kind of the anti-Fauci. You know, Fauci, lockdowns, forced masks, no kids in school, forced vax. Joe's like, no lockdowns, kids in school, no force, any of that stuff. And he's been great, but you know, he's challenging the conventional wisdom. Now a lot of people act like they never advocated those policies. I can tell you they did, because they all attacked me mercilessly in Florida for having the state open and having kids in school, and I remember that well. Nevertheless, but when Joe came on board, I said, you know, you're going to be maybe the only Surgeon General in the country willing to stand up and speak out against these failed orthodoxies. You better be ready, because they're going to come at you. And he's like, yeah, I got it. And so, you know, I saw him like a month or two later, and I said, you know, I haven't actually been following what you've done the last week or two, but I see the media is attacking you, so you must be doing a good job. But that's the mindset you got to have, to know you're going into the cauldron, and you either have people that have that fortitude or you don't. Let me tell you this. If you go to Washington trying to make the people who inhabit power there like you, you are never going to get the job done. You just have to understand this is a swamp for a reason. It benefits certain people, and that's the arrangements that they want to keep. So when you're trying to upset that apple cart, they're going to fire at you. But here's the thing, as president, the only way you can deal with it is if you're disciplined, if you're focused, if from day one you realize you're going to have to fight this battle, because ultimately we are playing, this issue here is about the future of a constitutional system of government. This bureaucracy has imposed its will on us for far too long. Now is the time we, the people, impose our will on it.
Thank you, Governor. My name is Quinn Mitchell. I'm 15 years old. And last month, I attended a rally of yours, and I appreciated your remarks on some of the key principles that the Founding Fathers set forth and how it was our duty to uphold them. A crucial part of our democracy is the peaceful transfer of power. Some people think that Trump's actions on January 6th and beyond violated the key principles of America and the Constitution set forth by our Founding Fathers. Do you believe that Trump violated the peaceful transfer of power, a key principle that of American democracy that we must uphold?
Are you in high school?
Yeah.
Where do you go to school? You go around here?
Vermont, but I live in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay. So you're
Yeah.
from Vermont. Well, thank you for the question. So here's what I know. If this election is about Biden's failures and our vision for the future, we are going to win. If it's about relitigating things that happened 2-3 years ago, we're going to lose. And so I can tell you this. I can tell you this. I can point you to Tallahassee, Florida on, I believe, January 5th, 2023. We had a transition of power from my first administration to my second because I won re-election in a historic fashion. And at the end of the day, we need to win and we need to get this done. So I wasn't anywhere near Washington that day. I have nothing to do with what happened that day.